You're listening to the Writer's Block Podcast with L.A. Wade.
How is it that you remove certain blocks to keep going?
I love this topic and I love this question. And I'm going to be completely honest, LA. I don't think that I necessarily know how to move those blocks every time they end up in front of me. You learn to work with them. And sure, I've been freelancing for 11 years now. I've been in entertainment for 16. And sometimes I think, ooh, that's a long time. But most of the time, I think I'm still very much a newbie at all of this. And I think with that mindset, imposter syndrome comes on quite regularly. Self-doubt will creep in quite regularly as well, especially like when you're always a newbie mindset, you do feel that level of insecurity often. And I learned to work with it. One of the biggest strategies for me when I really am in a space of why can't I move past is I take out a piece of paper and a pen and I write down first my latest achievements and then the achievements that I made big and small since the day I started. Because oftentimes I feel like we're moving so fast. It's about the next project. It's about what's bigger and better that you forget about all the things that you've achieved on your own or with the help of others. And that reminder usually helps me move past.
That's a really great reminder to think about your tribe and your own successes of who's helped and how you yourself have overcome and pushed through. I love that. And it does. Resilience is huge when it comes to removing blocks. And that's why I'm inspired by the guests that show up on the show, because resilience, it means nothing to them.
We all have it. We all are resilient. It's giving ourselves a chance to rise above.
Okay, so let me go back on track and ask you my very first question. Well, it's now the second question. But who are the main characters in your life and how have they contributed to the person you are today?
The main characters of my life. Like right now or over time?
Whoever comes up in maybe different times. You can be, take a temporal journey back in the day, right now.
The first main character that comes to mind is my dad. My dad has always been a hero of mine. He is a refugee or was a refugee from Vietnam and POW from the war.
Jeez. Talk about resilience.
Truly, LA. And I actually didn't come to know his story until I was 28 because he never wanted to talk about it. Never was brought up. And the way I was raised by my parents was, you just put your head down and you work. And that's how you gain respect from the people around you.
Wow. It's so interesting to know that Vietnam and the Caribbean has so much in common.
We got to get into that. I didn't know that. We got to get into that. But at 28, I asked him, I'm like, can you tell me about how you got here? And he finally did. And learning about how he was a person of war at 13 years old, slept on the floor for almost a year as a prisoner, working every day out in the fields and only eating rice and bread with his brother, who was also held captive at the time. And then fleeing the war a year later to find salvage in Indonesia and then Switzerland and then finally Canada. But, literally journeying through a boat, watching people die from starvation, from killing themselves.
Oh my God.
Jumping off the boat. I know. And
I just need to interview him.
You do, LA. Talk about, like you said, resilient. Learning about just hearing that story, sobbing endlessly for hours. I'll never forget it. But from that moment on, I just realized where all of his teachings came from. And the teachings were always about working hard, improving yourself. And you know what? I might not agree with everything he taught me as an adult now, because, when you tell a kid growing up over and over again, you got to work hard, you got to be perfect, that brings on some anxiety as an adult. Exactly. So I don't agree with everything, but I respect where it comes from. And so when it comes to pushing through any type of block or rising above, I always think, you know what? I was so blessed. I won the lottery in this life to be born in Canada, to have a roof over my head. It could be so much worse. So he is definitely a main character in my life.
Yeah, resilience and good dads. I love a good dad.
Me
I
too.
lost my dad in 2014, and we were close when I was really young, but then he left to go start a new family. So there's different family dynamics, but he always still had everybody in the family is like, you were his favorite. So I know that we had a bond, even if I was really young when it happened. So I can only imagine having that bond stretched into my adult life, what it would have been like more so if I had lost him at that stage. And we are who we are because of the people that brought us into this world. And so it's beautiful that you can count those blessings and see what it is that your father brought to your life. I think that's so beautiful. But you also have a really great relationship with your mom. I think I saw something on Instagram, a post. Did you do that for an endorsement for something?
Yeah, this was oh my God, 2020? Yeah, end of 2020. It was for a Lunar New Year campaign with Sephora. And it was really
Ah,
special. Yeah, she and I were part of this national campaign to celebrate Lunar New Year, which I mean, for, a second generation daughter to, an immigrant mother who doesn't speak a whole lot of English, it was just super special for the whole
yeah,
family.
absolutely. And you both
Yeah,
look gorgeous in the pictures. So
thank you.
that must have been a really great moment for her. And that sense of pride that when our immigrant parents come here and push through, and then their children, they see what their hard work has been able to give to their children,
That's it.
has to be satisfying. So good for you. I'm so proud of you too,
Thank
because
you.
that's not, you come here. And that's what I was going to ask you next is about, sharing a defining moment from your early career that really set the stage for your current work in media and content creation.
A defining moment in my career. Well, a defining moment that always comes to mind. I wouldn't say that it's the first one, but it always comes to mind was the first and last time I got laid off. Have you ever been laid off, LA?
During 2020, I got laid off.
And what was your initial reaction? Was it like
I'm such a loser. Why did this happen to me? Why didn't do it right? Yeah.
It's so easy to take it personal, right?
Yeah.
And I remember that was my exact feelings too. It's like, am I allowed to swear on this?
Of course.
Oh yeah. I was like,
do you know me?
Just out of respect, I had to ask. I remember when it happened, I immediately thought, what the fuck did I do? Bridge, what did you do? Like it was a my problem situation. But no, that was the best thing that could have happened for my career. Because I remember just before it happened, I was playing around with the idea of freelancing. And at that time, when you told people you're a freelancer, Ellen, they just thought, oh, you're fun employed. That's what you mean.
And broke.
And broke. Yeah, totally. So I was like, no, I can't do it. My colleagues are going to judge me. I'm never going to make money. This is silly. But no, like when that happened, I thought, this is the universe telling me I got to just go with my gut. And what's the worst that can happen? You know what I mean? You freelance, you might need some extra cash. You pick up a part-time serving job. You make it work. So I was laid off. Channel Zero was the company that I was working for full-time. They own CHCH. They're an independent broadcaster.
Okay, yeah.
Was with them. I started in 2009. So when I got laid off, this was like 11 years ago. I was like, oh my God, okay, we're going to do this thing. We're going to do this dance. And I had no other choice because my biggest fear for some reason was like sleeping on the streets, even though I knew that if I wasn't making any money, I can go to my parents. Yeah, I always have their support. But that's the pressure I gave myself. And I think because I gave myself that pressure, I thought I have no other choice but to make this work. And since then, fortunately, knock on wood, I've been making it work.
Yeah, you make it work. You make it look effortless, actually.
It is not effortless.
So inspiring.
I appreciate you.
No, it's really inspiring because I too had to leave the work that I used to do. I worked in education for many years at U of T. And I just went on this healing journey from the time my father passed away and lost my marriage and all of these different things. It all kind of accumulated into this moment of, I have a block in front of me and I have the power to remove it. And it's simply by way of mindset and putting one foot in front of the other and having that vision, right?
Yes. Yeah. The mindset piece is so big to this puzzle and this pie. It's like 90% of it, but you're absolutely right. And one of the things I always remind myself too, when I have those blocks, I always think, Bridge, if you love yourself,
Mm.
you got to do this for you. Make
Yes.
yourself this promise. If you can promise everyone else that you care about something, I don't know what it is, make yourself this promise and see it through.
Yeah, that's key. That's really, really
Yeah.
key. I love that. Thank you so much. So when all of that media stuff was going on and you started building up yourself, what was it that inspired the Homegirl Nation podcast? Because that's how I came to know you. And what do you hope your listeners get from that work that you do over there?
Firstly, LA, so grateful that you hung out with us this past season. It was so empowering, educational, and fun. Like
Me or the whole year of your podcast?
you. Because, what we talked about, your journey has not been fun the entire time, right?
No.
But just your perspective on life, your mindset, and just the way in which you talk about it has a really fun element, and that makes all of it very special. But anyway, enough about you.
I appreciate that.
Of course. I don't remember.
When I look at your Homegirl podcast year that you've had, when we look at all of the different guests that you've had, you attract so many wonderful things to your life through your podcast because you get something from each person that you speak to.
Totally.
And you've had one hell of a year.
What a gift, truly. And so the idea came about it was one of my least favorite lockdowns in 2020. I can't remember which one, but it was one of them. And I was locking down LA in a 500 square foot apartment in Liberty Village by myself. I was single at the time. I know. And to say that, like, I was working on my mindset so that I wouldn't get into a really dark place is an understatement. It was my only priority for months with Bridge. Wake up every day and work on that mindset. Like, if you're going to be trapped in this apartment, fine, but you can't be trapped in your own head. And I felt really, really awful. Like, my mental health was the worst that it's ever been. And I learned through therapy twice a week, because I had to stay sane.
Exactly.
Going through an existential crisis and secondary traumatic stress from everything that I was seeing and reading online about George Floyd, anti-Asian hate, and the climate of our world.
A mess.
Absolute disaster. And it was disheartening for us all to see it day in and day out. Yeah. And I just thought to myself, okay, I got to do something here. If I'm feeling a lack of connection with the world and a lack of connection from women, which have always been how I get excited about life, I need to do something. And this was the time too where I lost the regular show that I was reporting on CHCH, Inside the Story, came to an end as well. So I was like, oh, okay, so much loss. But as a freelancer, I think you don't have time to, like, dwell on loss. You got to think of solutions. Okay, what I got to do to get on my feet to, like, pay my bill, or, you know what I mean? So
exactly,
the loss was like, oh fuck, what am I going to do? And then what am I going to do was, okay, I'm going to start my own show and then see how long it goes. But this will give me a chance to connect again.
Yes.
To help other people who feel a lack of connection. But then also keep my interviewing skills sharp, excuse me.
Yes.
So that's how Homegirl was born. And then it just evolved into this really fun community of women who wanted to come together to share their lived experiences, their journeys of resilience, their journeys of hardship, and just tell their stories, because there is so much power in sharing our stories with one another, because we 100%. Find that we're more similar than we think.
We are. And I love that you when you mentioned that you get so much from the women around you. I didn't have a close relationship with women because of my past with abuse. So, like, I used to see women through the eyes of dysfunctional men. And I had really poor relationships with women. But now, after my therapy and coming into this new place, it's almost like the reflection got turned around, and I got to see and make a clear distinction between men who are dysfunctional and men who are phenomenal, which is something that a lot of us, we group men all together and we just see them as, the men do this and the men do that. And I'm thinking,
it's so unfair.
It's so unfair. And there's so many men that are amazing people and individuals, even if they mess up. They can still be amazing individuals.
100%. We need to get rid of that narrative of, like, men are like this, men are like that. Because we're just in a different time now. I grew up with incredible men. I have fantastic male friends in my life and colleagues who are so supportive. In LA, to be completely honest with you, coming up in this industry, the people who helped me most were men.
Let's change it up a little bit. Let's do a little would you rather before we get back into anything else.
Love this. So good.
Fiction or nonfiction?
Nonfiction.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I love nonfiction.
Yeah, of course. There's lots of imagination going on over there.
Yeah, I love a good self-help book or biography.
Ooh, yes.
Sorry, autobiography.
My new book's coming out, Optical Delusions. Wait for it.
Love it.
It's very self-help erotica, as you know. Toronto or New York?
Ooh. Like in general or like?
Yeah. It's a tough one because we love our city.
We love our city. I just want to say New York for leisure, but not to live.
Yeah, I 100% agree. That is, that gets my homegirl stamp of approval right there.
Yes, finally.
Okay. Host a live show with the celebrity guest or produce a behind the scenes feature for a major film.
Oh my God, LA. Okay, one more time.
Okay. Host a live show with a celebrity guest or produce a behind the scenes feature for a major film.
I can't say both.
No, well, you have to choose one over the other, but you can sometimes find ways to blend them together.
I'm going to say host a live show because I haven't done that in a long time, and it would be really fun. Yeah, let's go with that one.
Fun.
I know.
I would say produce a behind the scenes feature for a major film and have a part of it a show that has the celebrity guest from the movie.
I didn't know. Sorry, I didn't know that I can like mix and match. Well, okay, well, I'll go with that.
But that's what we have to do to be resilient. We find the things that work for us.
The more you know. Okay, I'm going to go with your answer.
Okay. The Minions or the Gremlins?
I'm going to say the Gremlins because it was more my era. I don't really know the Minions that well. But the Gremlins, they're cute.
I love both of them. Those little yellow guys, it's their voice and they're just ridiculous. I just love that. The Gremlins were a little scary for me, but I love Gizmo. So
Gizmo's so cute. Yeah, Gremlins.
I gotta find a little Gizmo stuffed animal or something. Okay. Interview someone from your bucket list or produce a viral content piece.
Introduce someone from my bucket list. And what do you mean by introduce? Like on stage somewhere?
No, interview them. Interview someone from your bucket list or produce a viral content piece.
Oh, interview someone from my bucket list, 100%. Virality is too I that's not a dream that I'm into chasing.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
I want really good content that I want connection, especially with somebody from my bucket list.
That's exactly it. Who's on your bucket list? Like who's number one?
I was going to say who's on your bucket list. I just want to have a conversation where I make Oprah think that I'm intelligent.
I was going to say, mine is Oprah. My Oprah candle isn't in this room, but I wish I could show you. But I love Oprah. She is my North Star.
Yeah, I just love the way that she is so confident in herself and really speaks from her place of values. And I get that from you, actually. I do see that for you. I don't see Oprah talking about having a sex addiction or love addiction, but... But I could see her thinking, I really think that your perspective is very interesting and very, introspective. I see her saying this to me. So maybe one day.
I can totally see it. I can totally see the split screen of you and her, by the way. So let's both manifest her.
Let's do it.
It's possible.
That's awesome. Okay. Work on a high profile project with tight deadlines or a long-term project with creative freedom.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Long term with creative freedom. As a creative, I think there's a level of stubbornness that we work with. So creative freedom is always a nice thing to have.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Okay. Be a leading voice in lifestyle media or a groundbreaking figure in digital content creation. That's tough.
Oh. One more time. Sorry. When I ask you to repeat it, it's because I want to visualize it.
No, 100%. Be a leading voice in lifestyle media or groundbreaking figure in digital content creation.
I'm going to say groundbreaking figure in digital content creation. And I say that because we just know that digital's not going anywhere.
It's not going anywhere. And also, I'm not surprised that you said that, knowing that your father has meant so much to you. He was groundbreaking. And I think that we, us children of our immigrant parents, have internalized this idea that we have to make a way that they provided a space for.
It's this unspoken pressure that we all put on ourselves, isn't it? Where you're like, okay, I'm going to figure out a way. And it's, the intergenerational trauma doesn't help me, but I'm going to figure out the way with my anxiety. And
exactly. We're breaking through a lot of what was left with us. And I wonder about, I don't know if you want to have children or if that's something that you want to do, but the younger generation just seems to really just show up and want what they want without knowing that we've had to work our ass off to get it. And they want it to just be given to them. So I don't know. It's an interesting dynamic. How do you think you would raise your children around that? What's your advice?
It's so funny that you bring that up because, now that, I'm getting older, I think about having kids often. And my husband and I actually are producing our first event together, and it is for teens. So I think about this a lot. I'm like, first of all, I'm learning a lot about this demographic, and then I think about them a lot. And I just think, what do I want to teach them? Because I almost feel like we
have to.
Older generations, it's kind of our civic duty to make sure these next generation of digital natives or whatnot are in a good place and know, I don't know, how to navigate the world in a way that's not all about now. I'm going to get this now. Instant gratification. You know what I mean? So I think about this a lot, and I don't really have an answer. But
AI certainly is not helping.
It's not. No.
It's helping in many ways, and it's also being a detriment because it's taking away that ability to think and work through certain things, and they already think that everything belongs to them. I think that the best way that I've approached this is to really focus on being critical thinkers and looking at and establishing the values and holding strong to the things that you believe in. Yes. And I hope that will help set a better foundation for what's to come.
Totally. Values. It's so important. And I will say that Gen Zs, for example, this generation, one of the things that make them this unicorn generation to me is that they really aren't afraid to stand up for what they believe in.
For sure.
Say that I'm owed this or I believe this is right and this is wrong. They're very confident in that, which I really respect in a lot of ways. But you said, it is, when we compare them with different generations, you do think, okay, the immediacy is very noticeable. Where I'm like, you got to put in the work. And so I guess if I could teach them something, it really is that level of self-belief, but that has to be earned and worked for.
Absolutely. Yep. And there's a lot of good for, volunteering and trying something that you haven't tried before, and not have to get paid for it. It's okay to try something without getting your L'Oreal contract first.
I mean, everyone wants that, but it's trying, it's failing, and being okay with both. It's that for sure.
Failing is so important. Love that. Mm-hmm. Okay. Last, would you have an endless supply of creative ideas or a team of professionals to bring your ideas to life?
What a great question. Execution is always the hardest part.
Right?
I want to say team of professionals. I've been solo for so long. You too? Yeah.
Yeah. Because, I'll create something. It will still be an endless creative journey, because working with other people is a really great way to stimulate more creative ideas. If you're that type of leader.
Yeah. That's so true. And ideas come and go. It's getting it off the ground and actually producing it. That's the hard part. So, yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, now I'm going to say a quote and then ask you a question about the quote.
Okay.
Are you ready?
So ready.
This one's from Nelson Mandela. He said, "The greatest glory in living lies not in never failing, but in rising every time we fall." So how has this quote influenced your journey in the media industry and your approach to overcoming challenges?
Oh, wow. Here I thought this podcast interview was going to be like an easy Q&A. Like, what'd you have for lunch today? You're really making me think. What does this... what a great quote.
Yeah, the greatest glory in living lies not in never failing, but in rising every time we fall. And your journey in the media industry and how you approach challenges must be influenced by this idea in some capacity.
I feel like when you are a solopreneur in media in any capacity, one of the greatest challenges is to stay relevant. And what I mean by that is being relevant with your content, being relevant in how you show up, and being relevant in how often you show up. It's a lot of pressure and it's a lot of work. And it's certainly really challenging, especially because things are always changing. The landscape is always evolving. So it's almost like there are more often times than not where I constantly feel like my head is barely above water. Does that sound familiar?
So, just 100%. Okay. I'm laughing to myself because I'm like, can you see me? I thought I did a good job of hiding the water behind me.
I'm reading your journal every night. You just don't know it. No, so it's that feeling of like, am I doing things right? You know what I mean? Like, are people seeing me? Like, am I going to get another job? Yeah, it's this constant, like, I don't know. And no one's going to answer me. You just have to figure it out. And so to like rise above that, it's constantly just hoping you're doing the best you can. And that's where I come from, which is why your last question about, what was it? Going viral. Yes. Me thinking I don't even want to focus on that because virality should be the last goal. Once you hit virality, then what's next? The pressure, the pressure to keep doing it is too high. Yeah. So the way that I kind of rise above those anxious feelings, those fears, those challenges is constantly remind myself, do the best that you can and create with purpose because that'll always feel good. That'll always feel good. So do what feels good, Bridge.
Do the best you can. I love that. And what was the second part? Good. Yeah. I'm going to write that down. I'm going to listen back and I'm going to use that quote. I'm going to tag you in the quote because that is such a great quote. I love that.
It's, you only got one shot at this. And most of the time you're doing this on your own. So you better feel good about it. Absolutely. So do what feels good.
Yeah. It's interesting that we use like that swimming analogy because I wrote a blog post about keep swimming. And it was because I brought I call her like my stepdaughter. I'm not officially my stepdaughter yet, but she's going to be my stepdaughter, which I just call my daughter. So I was in the water with my daughter. And there was this girl who went to do some laps next to us. And so my little one is just trying to learn how to be comfortable with the water. And her whole thing was like, ooh, I want to blow bubbles. And that's where she's at. And we both just kind of stopped and watched this woman go back and forth almost effortlessly through the water. And I remember seeing that and thinking when you're up in your own little puddle trying to like blow bubbles or like keep your doggy paddle, there's something about treading water and just watching the people who know how to do it around you so that you can pick up the tips and the tricks. And that really helps me to rise above at times as well. So I have to say, watching you on the TIFF red carpet and the way that you handle interviews is kind of like, oh, wow, there's an ease, there's a comfortability that you have in all of the work that you do. And I'm just like, where does that come from? Where does she go in her mind isn't she afraid that they're going to be like, what the hell kind of question is
all the time? All the time.
You are afraid?
First of all, thank you for saying that. I appreciate you saying that. That's really sweet. And you're absolutely right. Thank you. You're right. Watching other people in your field who do similar work will teach you so much. That is such a great point. And I live in worry and fear more than I'd like to admit, LA. So we don't have to go down that rabbit hole. But what kind of snaps me out of it to do the work and to do it well is like, honestly, I just think, what do I want to see?
Yeah.
You know, like, and because we're inundated with so much content and so much personality, you can't think that you can pull, the wool over someone's eyes. Like, people don't want to be bullshitted and they see it right away. So for me, I'm like, what do I want to see? If I want to see, I usually want to see somebody who is being organic, who is being true to themselves, who's being real. Otherwise, I'm going to change the whatever. I was going to say channel, but that makes me old. But somebody who is sincere. And so I try to show up that way all the time because I'm like, well, this is who I am. Yeah. And I think people pick that up and respect that. And I have an advantage in that I have been a behind the scenes producer since 2013. So I've had the unique privilege in a way of working with really high profile people and realizing that when you work in their space, you see who they are. And oftentimes who they are is not so great.
Often it's true.
Often it's true. They're not that nice. And so knowing that, I know not to put anyone on a pedestal.
That's it.
So when I don't put anyone on a pedestal, and you see everyone on the same playing field,
absolutely,
it comes across, and I'm so glad it does.
It does. It really does. You're a fantastic interviewer. Okay, we're going to wrap things up with these last 7 questions.
Okay.
What's some of the most significant lessons you've learned from your guests on the Homegirl Nation's podcast?
Great question. You're just going to have so many great questions here. One of the biggest lessons, I would say one of the biggest takeaways, it might not be a lesson, but a takeaway that I have garnered in the past 4 seasons of chatting with amazing women, resilient women, courageous women, is that we're all just trying to do our best.
Yeah.
We're all just trying to do our best, and we're all just trying to figure it out as we go. And I've spoken to some really just notable names.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to name any one of them because I don't want what I'm about to say to go back to them specifically. But, but my point is in saying, like, I've interviewed some big names, is that what I've found that we're all living with a certain level of insecurity.
Yes.
And we all just want to be validated for the best that we do. And so in knowing that, it makes me feel better about doubting myself sometimes. It makes me feel better for being human and questioning my worth in certain rooms or certain places. And maybe one day that'll change. But I think that's completely human. And it's really, really nice to know.
Yes, I love it. Because you can embrace all of who you are when you accept all of who you are.
100%. And I see people who seem confident all the time, and maybe I come off that way too, but I'm certainly not. And it's really, really nice to know that some of the biggest people out there with the biggest success stories still let that imposter syndrome, that self-doubt creep in from time to time.
That is so true. And that's why I like to talk to those people as well, is to expose it to the people who are struggling in a different way than they have, but to hear what it takes to be resilient, to remove the imposter syndrome, to still step forward despite the fear. I love that. It really helps me anyway. It's like, oh my God, I'm terrified of that. Let's jump in it.
Let's be scared and do it anyway and see what happens.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. How do you define success in your journey? How do you know when you're being successful?
How do I know when I'm being successful? That's another great question. So me saying this doesn't mean that I feel this way every single day, but I think that my definition of success is when I can wake up every day feeling a level of joy and peace that is consistent with how I feel when I go to bed.
Ooh, that is success. That is success.
Yeah. Working at that.
Yeah, right? Okay, if you could collaborate with any historical figure on a project, who would it be and why?
any historical figure. And by historical, you mean they're no longer with us?
Yeah.
Ooh, LA.
So I know it's hard, but I think you asked me a really hard question. I was legitimately like, I don't know what my walkout song is.
I mean, you figured it out. You eventually figured it out.
Eventually.
Yeah. But that was a fluff question compared to what you're dropping on me now. Okay,
Historical figure.
And sorry, they're no longer around, right?
I mean, if you want them to be around, they can be around. But what would be the project and why would you choose them for that project?
Oh my gosh. Historical figure. Can we come back to this one?
Yeah. I mean,
okay.
We can totally come back to that one.
Okay, I got to think about this one.
Okay, how about what has been your most memorable interview to date and why?
Oh, that one's so hard.
Okay, here's an easier one. How do you balance your roles as host, producer, and content creator?
Okay. Are they two separate? Would you like me to answer one or the other, or?
Yeah, you can answer one or the other.
Okay, because I do have an answer for the best interview.
Okay, go. Tell me.
Okay. Sorry, let me get comfortable again. Okay, so one of my favorite interviews that just immediately comes to mind years ago. Do you remember Daniel Radcliffe? You know Daniel Radcliffe, right? Yes.
The, Harry Potter.
Yes, Harry Potter fame. Extraordinary human in that, when you go into a junket, an interview room of any sorts, especially as a reporter, it's usually one after another. It's every 5 minutes you get a new reporter, and then the talent just sits in the same place for like an hour and a half. It's like speed dating. So it's a lot on them.
That's a lot.
Yeah, but it's just part of marketing. It's a formula that just repeats itself because it's quick.
Yeah.
So most of the time the talent they just sit there and then they
just answer the same thing over and over again.
Totally. With Daniel, he's the only one that I've ever met where he stood up when I walked into the room, walked over to me to shake my hand and introduce himself by first and last name.
Oh, wow.
And that just, you know what? It says so much about character.
It does.
Because it just goes back to like simple mannerisms in life that are, polite. You meet somebody, you shake their hand, you introduce yourself. That's it. But I loved that start. And then I remember that whole conversation was so friendly and warm. And those are, you've been interviewing too. Those are the best conversations.
They really are.
Everyone's feeling comfortable.
Yeah, when people are comfortable and everybody recognizes that we're just people showing up, and a big part of this podcast is about normalizing vulnerability. And when we all speak from a vulnerable space, you have automatic connection and belonging.
That's it. Yeah. And that's what being human is all about.
Yes.
But that's the one that comes to mind right now. What was your other question?
It was, how do you balance roles as a host, producer, content creator, and I guess now a wife? Congratulations.
Thank you. I forgot to add that to my LinkedIn. I got to do that next.
Host, producer, content creator, and wife.
Well, the wife part, I feel like that's probably the easiest of all of them. Actually, no, I'm new, so let me get back to you on that one.
No, stay like that, because the reason why you're going to be a good wife is because you're going to maintain being a good host, producer, and content creator. When you change who you are to become some ambivalent wife person, he's going to be like, what the hell happened to the host, producer, and content creator that I fell in love with?
You're right. This is really good advice. I wish I was writing it down, but I'm going to rewatch this and remember it. You're totally right.
We'll watch it back.
It's all connected. It's all connected. You know what? I don't have a secret recipe, but I will say, LA, I think the reason why I've been able to balance everything the past decade or so is because I know me and I get into my head a lot. A lot. I grew up as the most insecure kid that you can imagine. Like, I couldn't even walk into a room with the lights on and it had mirrors. I couldn't. Yeah, I didn't want to look at myself. I was just so insecure with my acne and my braces, your typical kid thing. And then also growing up, like, my dad always told me the first thing people are going to see when you walk out of the house is your skin color. So that's what I mean by like taking some advice from him and not. I grew up so insecure. And so, but one of the things that's really, really helped me keep all the balls in the air, if you will, is reminding myself that like I only have one life to live. And there are two things that I love and two things that I think are part of my superpower, which is connecting with people and telling stories. And so if I want to do life prioritizing those two things to make a living, then I got to remember to do it my way.
Yeah.
You know, and that's not always the right way, but it has to be your way, Bridge, because you're going to feel good about it. Because I've done it other ways and haven't felt good about it.
It doesn't work. It gives me goosebumps. So I know that's one of my indicators that you're where you need to be. That's a really good place to be. Yeah.
So I think with any field, with any job we have or freelance job, to keep those balls in the air, to keep a balance in life is to remember, like, how do you want to do it your way? How do you want to do life your way?
Yeah.
And it's with integrity, values, and my morals. But
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Two more questions.
Okay.
What do you thirst for in your personal and professional life?
Thirst for?
Yeah.
Oh, it's a good way to word it. What do I thirst for in my personal and my professional life? I'd really like a new level of consistency.
Yes. Consistency is stability, and I would love that too. Just even for a long stretch.
Yeah, like I'm not saying every day for a year. Like I'm being realistic. But at my stage and age now, before I'd be like, yeah, like I can do on-calls jobs all the time and take this and take that. No, now I need a level of consistency for like at least a couple of weeks. That would be nice.
That.
Yeah.
I like that. So this kind of coincides with the last question. Well, it can, which is, where in your life are you currently stuck? And what commitment can you make to all of us on the writer's block to help you get unstuck? Like, what's that first step that you can consistently do to remove the current spot that you're blocked or stuck?
Wow. See, this really encourages a vulnerable answer.
Yes, it does.
I see what you're doing. And I'm buying into it. I love it. Where am I currently stuck? Well, there are a few areas. Like, I think.
I mean, like, I would think for all of us.
Yeah, when you're mindful of where you're at. One of the places I constantly feel stuck in lately is social media growth.
Oh, yes.
Does that mean you understand, you can dig it?
I do.
Yeah. Where you're and you have to remind yourself that like there are algorithms that are designed by these big tech corporations to prevent you.
To help or not.
Exactly. To help or not. And sometimes prevent you from reaching the people that you want to reach.
Yeah.
Because it's a pay to play game now. But it's the growth. The growth and reaching the right people on social has been a little tough lately.
Okay. So what commitment can we make to each other that will approach this in a way that says, hey, I did this because I believe that this will help me get to where I want to be with social media, or how to get that growth thing despite the algorithm.
What can your community do?
Or what can you do?
What can I do?
Yeah. What can you commit to that will remove this block that will at least push you in the direction of your goals?
Ooh, what can I do that'll help me push me in the direction of my goals? Truthfully, I think it's to produce more content.
For me, it's to be consistent with posting the damn content.
Totally. But you know what? It is. Let's talk about the challenges in that, because LA, you do multiple things as well.
I know, and I need to stop doing that.
Hey, but why? Why though?
I think I have to stop because I don't want to feel depleted and burnt out. And I don't want to confuse my audience either. But the thing is, I love life, and I love the things and life is not one thing over the next thing. Sometimes it is all of the things. I want to go on vacation. I want to go to the beach. I want to go hiking. I want to do all these things. And I want to share that with other people, because I want to show them that healing isn't just about sitting in an office with a therapist. Healing is about the adventures of life and learning how to apply what you learned in the office with your therapist. And so I feel kind of like responsible to myself to share with others that this is also what healing can look like. Let your living be your healing is my tagline.
No, I love it.
Yeah, because that's what we have to do. Through the good, the bad, and the ugly, you still have to show up. And that's kind of how the writer's block got birthed. Is I was like, I need to reach an audience that is not understanding maybe just through the books what I'm doing. This is actually how I think and feel about what healing has given to me. How do I share that on a larger platform? And that's how the writer's block got birthed, in a sense. So that is creating the podcast, because that makes me be consistent. But we still have to edit it, and I have to still do this.
Totally. I mean, podcasting, people think, oh, you just throw a mic up, record it, and you're good to go. No, it's one of the hardest mediums to conquer.
Yeah,
like it is. From the pre-production to the production to the post, and then to find your audience.
Yes. And having an engaging conversation that brings value. I mean, why else would they listen? They want to hear value.
Exactly.
And the value for me doesn't always come from having a big name celebrity. It's having conversations with people like them who's watching or listening.
Exactly.
To show them that we are all amazing people, that we all have ways of navigating things in our life that have almost sometimes felt superhuman. We've all had some moments of that. That's why we're all still here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think none of us have the answer to it except to be consistent with the output.
Consistency. We're committing to consistency.
That's it, girl. That's it. If we want consistency, that's what we got to put out there.
Exactly. High five for that. Exactly. I love it. Thank you so much, Brigitte, for being with us here in the Writer's Block podcast. It's been even better than I thought it would be, because you're just such a joy. You're such a talent. I want to see such great things for you. I love your voice. It's kind. It's informative. It's direct. It's assertive. And there's care there. Like you've got everything that you need to be as successful as you dream for yourself. And I want to see that happen.
I appreciate you so, so much. I'm so grateful that our paths crossed, because
thanks, Mira.
Thank you, Mira. Yeah. You are a unicorn. You're so special. Truly. And I am so glad you started the writer's block, because this is going to help so many people get through their own blocks, whether it's mental, emotional, situational. It's huge. So thank you for having me on. It was such a blessing to be on.
Oh, thank you. You're such a sweetheart. I just want to give a shout out to my sponsors, TRF Media, and my wonderful producer, Mello. He's quiet and mellow, but he's very forceful and amazing. He's his own hurricane, and I'm so happy to partner with someone like that. If you want more details on the writer's block or about me, myself, I'm at This Is LA Wade. And how can we reach you outside of this wonderful dynamic here?
Oh, I love you. At Brigitte Truong is where you can find me pretty much across all socials.
Oh, okay. That's easy. There you go. There's no excuses. We got to see the numbers going up, people. Let's go. Get to work.
You're the best.
Yes. Thank you, everyone. And thank you to CH Hot and Wines. If you're interested in seeing what my wine is all about, head over to thisislawade.com and let's get unblocked. Have a great week. Take care, everyone.
You're so cute.
You're listening to the Writer's Block podcast with LA Wade.
I'm Brigitte Truong, and I'm the founder of Be True Media and the Homegirl Nation podcast. And I just got unblocked on the Writer's Block podcast.